Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Python Programming for Beginners series. In this video, we'll be talking about functions with inputs. Just as you can remember, in our last video, we talked about functions, and we see how we can use functions to perform the same operation, to perform the same task multiple times. You can group specific task into the same function, and then you call the function a number of times you like to perform the same operation. So in the last video, we performed this example of using a function to welcome people into this series, and we defined a welcome function. And you know that to define your function, you use the def keyword followed by the name of your function. We called the function welcome, followed by parentheses, and then you have your colon. So inside of the function, you have whatever operation you want to perform. So we printed a welcome message. We said welcome to the Python programming for beginners. Okay, let's use this. Okay, so we add this simple function in our last video, and to call this function, we said that you just have to write the name of the function and then you call it with the parentheses. So you can call it a number of times you like. To run this, you can use this key, this button. Alright, so we have our functions invoked there. If you do not call the function, nothing will be printed into your console. The codes in the function will not be executed. If we clear this, right, so if we run this again, nothing will be printed because the function is not called. Right, now to go into functions with inputs. Realistically, in the real, it is very unlikely that we'll be doing the same thing. Most times you need to pass some inputs to your function so that your function is kind of dynamic. Possibly, just for example, this is our welcome function. We may likely want to pass the name of whoever we want to welcome into the series into the function so that the message is kind of specific to the person we are invoking the function on. Possibly we want to welcome John into the course, we want to welcome Smith, we want to welcome Jane, we want to welcome anybody. So there are times that we need to pass input into our function so that the execution of the function is specific to the input we are passing into it. And that is what brings us to functions with inputs. Functions, by passing inputs into our functions, we make the function to be kind of dynamic. So the output of the function will be dependent on the input that we pass into the function. And then to pass inputs into functions, you define your input inside of the parentheses. Possibly if you want to pass name into this welcome function, you pass the input inside of these parentheses. The name that you want to give into the input is solely dependent on you. So if possibly you want to pass name input into the function, we can say name. You can call this whatever you like. You have the liberty to call it whatever you like. So you pass your input inside of these parentheses, and wherever you want to use the input in your function, then you refer to the input with the specific name that you have passed in between the parentheses. So for example, we want to welcome John to the course. So we can also print before the welcome message, we can print. And so let's use the f string so that we can pass this variable into the string. So we can say hello John or whatever name we want to pass into it. So to pass the variable, we use our curly braces inside of our f string. So we can say hello name, to pass an exclamation mark to pass a kind of excitement to the person we are welcoming. So we can say hello name, whatever the name the user passes in. Right, so welcome to the Python Programming for Beginners series. So to invoke functions with inputs, whenever you call the function, you are going to pass the inputs that you want into the function. Now we are using name as a placeholder for whatever name we are passing to our function whenever we call it. So we can say name, possibly the name of the person we want to greet is, let's say, Jane. Alright, so to call functions with input, you pass your input in between the parentheses as well, just as when you are defining it. So if we run this now, let's clear our console. So if we run this now, we are going to are going to have hello Jane, welcome to the Python Programming for Beginners series. Okay, so that is that for functions with inputs. And then that leads us to parameters and arguments. If you can remember, you must have been hearing me mentioning parameters and arguments during the course of the series. Sometimes I will say parameters or arguments, whatever you call it. Actually, they are specific to each use cases. You use parameter for a special use case, and then you use argument for another use case. Now is the time that we need to know the difference between parameters and arguments. So parameters is for when you are defining your function. Your parameter is the variable that you use as the placeholder to define your function, while argument is the actual value you are passing to the function whenever you are calling the function. I take it again. Whenever you are defining your function, parameter is the variable, the placeholder that you are using as the input, is the placeholder for the input, while the argument is the actual value that you are using to call the function. So in this case now, name is our parameter, while Jane is argument. Okay, so that's that for this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the next lesson.